Go ahead,
Guys,
Bull. we've missed. Sorry to jump in here, but we've missed the biggest story of the weekend. The Colts hired a coach.
I know.
Out of the TV booth. This is insane.
Insane. I worked with Jeff for 10 years. He's a great guy.
How's that going to go?
But listen.
It's crazy.
How's it going to go?
Do you guys know his record in high school as a coach?
Yeah,
he
he's like
coached 3 years in high
500.
school.
Yeah,
He's
he's
like
an average
500.
coach.
20 and
He coached
16.
at a Christian high school, I think.
Christian high school in Georgia.
Here's the weird
They
thing.
may
to
call
me.
you to call the plays on Sunday because they don't have a play caller.
That's where it's going to break down. I think if you had a good offensive coordinator and a good defensive coordinator, you could come in and you could have, first of all, the Colts are a mess.
Yeah.
When I watched their news conference last night,
He is unhinged.
He
Jim
is
Irsay
unhinged.
That was the
unhinged.
best press conference ever.
Electric.
I said this morning, like every team has PR guys who like coach you up during a press conference. This is what you say, avoid this, phrase this way, this is the points we want to hit on. It's like he walked into that room and said, nope, I got this. He showed up looking for a fight.
He set
And
analytics
he's
on
gonna-
fire, too.
And he's going to get it. He
Yeah.
wanted a fight, he's going to get a fight.
Yeah,
That
it's
was
not going to end well.
unbelievable.
It is not going
Jay,
to end well.
How is Saturday going to do as a coach? And just a reminder, I can reach you really well.
His men will run through a wall for him.
Okay.
I used to love to watch when former players would come into the green room and they would interact with ESPN's talent. Because a lot of them they're not big on throwing opinion around, the players
Right.
when they come in.
Bite their tongues.
But Jeff Saturday was an absolute man's man. Every guy that came in loved Jeff Saturday. I don't know what it is about him. He's a man's man. He's funny. He's a super nice guy.
He doesn't have faith in him as a coach.
But no, listen,
does not have faith in
I'm
him.
going there.
Okay.
Where I'm going with this is, we always talk about Kevin Stefanski should be the CEO, and I want my offensive coordinator piloting the offense with the CEO's input, a lot of input, and the same thing on the defensive side. This can't work, guys. It cannot work. It's going to be an epic fail because what you have is an owner who's now decided that the entire establishment is broken.
Right.
I don't want a head coach with any experience. Okay, that usually goes very badly. And he, like most that meet and spend time with Jeff Saturday, love being around him. And Jeff makes great sense when you listen to him on TV. I've seen a lot of guys make great sense when you listen to him on TV. I've also seen coaches that were pretty damn good come on TV and couldn't get their way out of the segment.
Right.
You know,
It's two completely different animals.
it's two worlds.
Yes.
It's two worlds.
Like you're
Rex Ryan was
you're
a
a
guy.
great heart surgeon. You're a terrible delivery person. Like, you know?
That's it.
Come on.
That's it. Rex Ryan was a guy. I had zero faith in Rex as a coach. I just thought the guy was the biggest fraud ever. He would come into the studio, and the camera people would be like, we're hanging on every word.
Right. Yeah.
He's charismatic.
Yeah.
Charisma in the coaching world doesn't amount to a hill of beans.
Right.
And if you look historically at the all-time greats, who's the best of all time? Bill Belichick. How much charisma does he have?
Right.
You can put all of his charisma in this cap,
I think
and you
you'd
would
say
still
bottle.
be able
Generous.
to fit a cap full of water in there.
Generous.
And the others, Landry, if you go way back, Chuck Noll,
Chuck
all
Noll.
of the greats.
Yep.
And then you got these guys that come in, and we bought one here in Freddie. We love Freddie. But the charisma guys typically fail. You can't even list them. Rex Ryan had all kinds of charisma. But I just think Jeff is going to fail, and I think he's going to fail for a lot of reasons. But first and foremost, there's no structure. Right now, I can only imagine what he's doing. He's got to be going through their playbook saying, what do I keep? What do I get rid of?
Well, and that's the thing. Like, Bull, I think way too much is made about play calling, and we blow it. We spend way too much time. They don't have anyone on staff who has ever called a play. Like,
It's insane.
That's totally crazy.
They fired the OC also the week before.
Yes.
And in a way, this reminds me a little, not personality-wise, but of David Blatt, Jason, because like the Cavs hired David Blatt, and everybody in the league was like, what?
Yeah.
And
You know
now
what?
Everybody.
It's funny you say that because I said this morning, there's always hires where you say, that's the owner. The owner did that.
Yes.
Tony La Russa, that's Jerry Reinsdorf.
Yes.
Jerry made that hire. I used Blatt as the example. That's Dan. There's no way on earth David Griffin would have hired David Blatt. That was all Dan. And this is all clearly This is all Jim Irsay. This is an owner hire, and I don't understand for the life of me why these guys feel like they know more than the people who are the actual experts who they hired to do the job.
Because they're
But the
entitled
owner
rich
comes in,
guys.
pulls their
That's
pants
true.
down and says, no, I'm going to do this.
They
I'm
know
going to make
better.
this
Smart.
hire.
And
It drives
guys,
me crazy.
I think it's a great day for people in the analytics crowd because the biggest dope owner, or one of the biggest dope owners in the league, said analytics, forget analytics. Who cares about that? So I don't know that you want Jim Irsay on your side, the anti-analytics crowd.
No, I
Plus,
don't, because
Right.
I'm more anti-analytics than probably anybody on the panel. I think
Yes.
it should be a 50-50 split. What Irsay
Agreed.
said was, I want a guy with some guts. I want a guy that's going to look at the situation and make the right call, not look at his calculator to make the right call. Now,
Everybody said, Jay, that Dan Campbell, guts, tough guy. Look at his team. They suck. They're terrible again.
And they use analytics there. It's not like they're.
I'm sure they do.
afraid
Everybody
that
uses
what we're going
it.
to see in Detroit what we're going to see in Indy will be anti-analytics. Like, absolutely, because it has to be a blend of both. You can't
Yes.
ignore the numbers. You can't. But you also can't lean too heavily on them. And it's interesting that you're right, because now Irsay is going to be. He's the flag bearer for the anti-analytics crowd.
Yep.
And he doesn't
Yes.
have the team to win anyhow. Now, Bull, if Jeff Saturday goes 8-1 down the stretch,
boy.
we all got a problem.
Weirder things have happened,
That's-
though. Weirder things have
that's right.
happened.
It
But you
has.
just never know when
You're right.
if they're playing free and easy. There's no expectations on them. This guy's never coached
They
before.
will want to take a hill for him.
They
will.
So you know,
But
and
guys,
that-
this is a
go ahead.
slap in the face to all the coaches out there. Like, first of all, if you're another coach on this team, I think Reggie White is a coach on, not Reggie White. Reggie Wayne is a coach
Yeah.
on this team.
Reggie White,
He was a long.
they're in a bigger problem than I thought.
Yeah, right.
We got
Well,
a big story,
you know,
too.
Maybe Jim Irsay would have done that because Jim Irsay, who knows what's going on his side of his brain. But and it's an insult to all the coaches out there that've been busting their ass all season. I mean, I'm surprised Jeff Saturday agreed to this. Irsay said that he's been trying to get him to take a job within the organization for a while. I'm surprised he would agree. Like, if you made this hire in the offseason, that's one thing, because it still seems crazy, but at least he would have time to get up to speed. But to do it in the middle of the season, I mean, maybe they just want to be as bad as possible so they get the first pick in the draft.
Admittedly-
Maybe they're tanking for that.
Admittedly, dumb question. Did they have to Rooney rule this?
No.
They didn't.
No.
Supposedly no.
Not for
Because it's
mid-season.
in the season.
Right.
It's in the
In
season.
the offseason,
Interim hire.
they will.
What an interesting and
reached out
problematic loophole,
Yes.
right?
Do you think they reached out
Yes.
to Peyton Manning first and he said no?
Peyton has made it very clear he wants nothing to do with the football industry
I'm
other than what
sure-
he's doing right now.
I'm sure they reach out to Peyton, as our guy does, as Jimmy does here.
Sure.
Right.
I'm sure they've reached out to Peyton multiple times. But Bull, of course he's going to take the job. If someone's going to make you a head coach in the NFL, how could you say no to that?
Right.
But I don't think that this is a total tank job, because why would you embarrass one of the legends? I mean, Jeff Saturday is
fair.
a legend of the Colts.
fair.
He
Good
is.
point.
Why would you?
Good point.
Why would you want to bring him in and embarrass him like
True.
that? You can go find another high school coach somewhere in the country, if that's what you're trying to do. And they got a long way to go, because I was having that argument with somebody else. They're middle of the pack. Like 3-5-1
true.
is not.
No.
There's a lot of teams that are bunched together.
and
but
in their division too, it's not like they're looking up at what are the Titans? 6-2,
5-3.
5-3. Okay, so
But there's a lot of teams, if they're trying, and listen, I think that they should try and get in position to get a quarterback, because that's been the biggest problem with the organization. Since Andrew Luck stunned them and retired,
Yeah.
they haven't had a quarterback. But there's so many, now's a really bad time to do that, because it's not necessarily that, okay, well, the worst team is only a couple games behind you. There's 14 teams or 12 teams that you have to plummet under if you're
Yep.
trying to get one of the top 1 or 2
Yeah.
picks.
You got to get under like 6 of our draft picks
Now
that
they
we
can
don't
get
have
in
anymore.
position, maybe they can get, top 5, 7, 8, and then maybe you trade up from there. But it's going to
they're
be really hard
14
for
right
them. It's going to be really hard for them to get to 1 or 2 from where they're at.
I will say, Bull,
Yeah,
I'm
they
glad you brought that up, because my immediate instinct was this now becomes the most fascinating situation outside of playoff races in the
Yes.
NFL to see what happens with the Indianapolis Colts with a guy who's completely on the outside. Yeah, he was a great player. He played for a long time in the organization. He's stayed close to the game because he's been a broadcaster, but I can only imagine Jeff's head right now as he walks into the building he's got to have a million question marks.
Well, and Aditi, I was talking to Aditi about this morning. She brought up a great point. Like, the Texans got destroyed for trying to do this with Josh McCown. where they were going to pluck this guy in off the street, and they got obliterated for it, and ultimately weren't able to do it and pivoted to Lovie Smith.
Yeah.
And now the Colts are doing the exact same thing with Jeff. It's the exact same thing.
Pretty much.
And that was in the offseason where he would have had time.
Right.
Right. This was a real head scratcher. Am I the only one, by the way, that every time I watch Irsay speak, I just get I get the sense that he is on a bender? Is that just his personality?
Well, he's got a history.
I know he's had an issues, but
It's hard to
yesterday
tell.
watching him, I was looking at him going, is he smashed?
Well, it's great. Like, he's talking like, I've never picked a bad head coach. Okay, and they have, and I was looking at this morning, they have had, every coach they've had since like 98 has had a winning record. But he's getting drunk off the smell of his own farts here because he's also had Peyton Manning and Andrew Luck for a lot of that. So I think it has to do with your quarterback more than it does your ability to pick a head coach.
A former coworker of mine who's been in the Tampa Bay market forever. He's been covering the Bucs. He texted me this morning and said, "Wow, I'm surprised Irsay didn't try to reel in Tony Dungy again." That would have made a lot
That'd
more
make
sense.
a lot more sense. And Tony probably wants nothing.
He may have reached out to Tony and said, "Please come back."
Yeah.
Tony's too smart.
Yeah.
I love the guys when I ask, "So you've been doing this for a couple of years now. How do how does it compare?" And they always say the same thing. The first guy I ever heard say this was Herm Edwards. He goes, "I'm undefeated." It feels great.
Well, I mean, John Gruden left to go back after a long time off. Are there any others? Because I can't really, off the top of my head. I mean, Bill Cowher had been rumored for years, and that never happened.
Right.
Tony's a guy who I'm sure would have opportunities to go back if he wanted them.
You would think.
The money probably isn't quite as good as the NFL, but it ain't bad.
But you're right.
No.
It tells you.
John Gruden was making as much or more
John probably is the
doing Monday Night
exception.
Football than he was as an NFL head coach.
It tells you how grueling that gig is, how few people do go back to it after they leave it. The fact that they because that really would
get your life back.
Yeah.
Like you can have a somewhat normal actual.
And once you realize, like John did, I was always surprised that he went back. John Madden figured this out. Now he had the video game money too, but I always thought John Madden got out of coaching so young. I thought at some point he's going to. The guy that did it was Dick Vermeil. He retired young.
That's true.
And spent a long time doing college games.
Yep.
And then came back and had great success with the Rams. But it's really rare where you see it because when you go into TV and they're still making that kind of money, there's 6 zeros on your paycheck, they do come to that realization. They're like, hell, I'm not getting up at 3:15 in the morning.
Yep.
I'm not eating my dinner cold at the facility at 10 o'clock at night. This doesn't suck.
I'm not cutting some 22-year-old on Christmas Day. You know, that kind of those decisions you have
And
to
when the
make.
Super Bowl's over, you have a 7-month off season.
Yes. Yep.
That doesn't stink either.
Right.
One more point I want to make before we got to pivot to the Cavs here.
Okay.
How about them holding the press conference during the middle of Monday Night Football last night?
Yeah, what was that?
I think he's trying to hide the fact that there were other things going on in the league so they'd have less national media people trying to ask questions.
Maybe.
It was just the smartest thing they did all day. It was
But
genius.
Jim Irsay is just so unconventional that a lot of times if you try to give him credit for making a smart move, it's a mistake because it's just like, no, he didn't think that through. He just did
throwing haymakers.
He's just swinging from the hip.
There's a lot of guys in that circle who have FU money, and that was an FU move.
Yeah,
that was an FU money move. This is my team. I'm going to do what I want. You guys are idiots for questioning me. Watch me.
Yeah, that's why it's going to be so fun to watch this.
All right, we're watching. You were
unfold.
looking for a fight yesterday.